Now recognize Ms. Harshbarger from Tennessee for her 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Secretary Becerra, for being here. I've got several questions, or mainly yes or no's. The HHS Inspector General wrote in the fall of last year, quote, "Some staff reported that they were hesitant to raise concerns about case management and children's safety due to the fear of retaliation by ORR and facility leadership. In some cases, the reported actions of ORR and facility leadership may have risen to the level of whistleblower chilling. Mr. Secretary, under your leadership, has HHS ever threatened to transfer, remove, suspend, revoke the privileges, or dismiss anyone for raising concerns about ORR sponsors' vetting process? Yes or no?"
Congresswoman,
Well, it's just a yes or no, sir.
we do not threaten.
So that's a no. Would you tolerate under your watch suspending, transferring, removing, not promoting, revoking the privileges, or dismissing anyone for raising concerns about ORR policies, procedures, or actions taken?
We have a zero tolerance for any retaliation against whistleblowers.
Okay. The New York Times reported in April this year that an immigration lawyer, Linda Brandmiller, who helped vet sponsors for HHS, had her building access revoked, was fired within hours after emailing HHS about 2 potential sponsors she was concerned could be labor trafficking child migrants. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to submit into the committee record the New York Times article dated April 17, 2023.
And we will take that up at the
Okay.
conclusion, and I assume that we have copies of that.
Yes, yes, you do. Mr. Secretary, is the New York Times article right or wrong
Is it right or wrong about what?
about the question, the statement I just made?
I'm sorry.
About Linda Brandmiller, who helped vet sponsors for HHS, that she had her building access revoked and was fired within hours after emailing HHS about a question about sponsors for labor trafficked child migrants.
As a former Attorney General who worked with and protected whistleblowers, I can tell you that now as Secretary, I do not tolerate on my watch any type of retaliation against whistleblowers.
So I guess you don't know.
Well,
Under
in
her
any,
leadership, was she
Congresswoman, in
threatened to
any
remove?
particular, on a specific case, as you know, I cannot comment on any case that may be
Okay.
before us.
Okay. According to the same New York Times article, Jalen Subalog, a senior HHS employee and lifelong Democrat, was moved out of her position after she informed congressional staff, the HHS Inspector General, and her bosses that some sponsors were falsifying identities to get unaccompanied migrants released to them. Did that happen, Mr. Secretary? Was she moved out of her position?
Congresswoman, again, we have zero tolerance for any retaliation.
It's just a yes or no. If you
whistleblower.
don't know, just say you don't know.
It's that you're asking cases about specific, asking information and questions about a specific case, and as you know, I cannot comment
Okay,
on
no
ongoing
comment.
cases.
According to the New York Times, 2 people who were retaliated against for raising the concerns about sponsors. Do you dispute that New York Times article that under your leadership, HHS retaliated against at least 2 whistleblowers?
Again, I'd have to see this article, but we
Okay.
don't retaliate against whistleblowers.
Okay. so
Not
you
under my
don't know.
watch.
Okay. According to a February 2023 New York Times article, rather than listening to these concerns, you were pressuring HHS employees and contractors to rush more children through the system faster. According to the
inaccurate.
Times, you were captured on video saying to staff last summer, quote, "If Henry Ford had seen this in his plants, he would have never become famous and rich. This is not the way you do an assembly line," unquote. Is that how your administration is treating the release of unaccompanied minors, sir, like an assembly line that cannot stop to make sure that these minors are being released to a safe sponsor? And that's a yes or no.
Congressman, you may not have been here earlier. I responded to that question. The information relates to the process we were talking about, not people, when it comes to how we engage in an efficient process to get children where they need to.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to submit into the committee record this February 25th, 2023.
That one's already
New
been
York Times.
requested. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Secretary, did you tell former ORR Director Secretary Cindy Huang that you would fire her if she didn't speed up the releases of UAC?
Congresswoman, as I said, I do not allow, we do not tolerate anyone.
So you don't
who tries
know.
to-
Do you know
That's
why
not the-
Director
no, that's not
Hong
accurate.
retired?
That's
Do you
not
know
accurate.
why
I
she
didn't say that I
resigned?
didn't know. I have many conversations with the personnel at ORR. That is not a conversation I had with anyone.
Okay. Due to the surge in unaccompanied alien children arriving under the Biden administration, ORR set up temporary emergency intake sites to deal with demand. According to the HHS Officer Inspector General, one employee at an emergency intake site at Fort Bliss reported retaliation after raising issues about case management and child safety, which caused hesitation among other staff who wished to share concerns. And several staff interviewed by HHS OIG reported knowledge of staff who were allegedly dismissed or reassigned after expressing concerns. This is in addition to media reports of other retaliation against ORR staff and contractors who raised concerns. Are you concerned at all that HHS OIG found instances of retaliation against employees who raised those concerns, sir?
We work closely with the OIG anytime they do a report, and we follow their recommendations usually as quickly as we can. And I can say to you, once again, when it comes to whistleblowing, it is important that we protect those who are willing to come forward for good, open government. And at HHS, we don't tolerate anyone who would try to retaliate against whistleblowers.
Young lady yields back.